Okay, so the first thing I'm going to check on this Easy Rider is why there's no spark. The owner's already told me that it's had a new set of points and condenser, so I took the flywheel off and checked the resistances on the ignition coil, and it had 3.5 ohms on the primary winding, 5.6 on the secondary, so that ignition coil is okay. I spun it over on the pedals, hold the HT lip against the actual cylinder head, and a decent spark. So the next thing to check with the spark plug and the HT cap. But the first thing I've spotted is the new spark plug that's been fitted is the incorrect value. This R on RGK denotes it's got a built-in resistor. It's 4.75 kiloohms, and they're generally only used on electronic-based ignition systems that are powered by a battery, so the voltage is constant to the coil at all times. On a magneto-based ignition system, the voltage varies with engine speed, so you don't want to put a resistor spark plug in there because at low RPMs the voltage is lower, which means you've got a weaker spark. So I had a look in the Haynes manual to find out what the correct value of spark plug is, and the only one I could still find available is this Champion N8Y. The other two were now obsolete. This one was also new old stock as well, so I had to do a bit of hunting around to find it. But this hasn't got a built-in resistor, although it still measures about 1.5 kiloohms if you do a test on it. The HT cap also has a built-in 5 kiloohm resistor as well, so again, incorrect. So that's a total of almost 10 kiloohms at the end of the HT lead, and that would have severely reduced the strength of the spark. I'm going to fit one of these type of HT caps. These are rubber, there's no built-in resistance, and they're kind of contemporary to the age of the bike as well. And I've used them on my Thomas mopeds with no issues, so that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, one thing to note is the spark plug gap on this particular engine is set to 0.5 millimeters according to the manual. It's actually quite small. Average is 0.7, although Thomas mopeds use 0.6. This could make it prone to whiskering up, so one of the first things you should check if you've got a no spark issue. Okay, so even though this bike uses a Bosch base ignition system, it's not the same one as fitted to the Puch Maxis and the Thomas A3 and A35 because it uses a smaller flywheel, which means you can't use the same 1 degree equals 1 millimeter like on the 360 millimeter circumference flywheels because it's got a smaller circumference flywheel. Therefore, I had to do a bit of jiffy bag mathematics to work out what the circumference was, and then work out what the measurement was per degree to check that the timing was right. And the reason I did this is because the marks that are already on here aren't present on the other flywheel that came with the bike, and I've never seen a Bosch one with marks actually on them from the factory. So I think someone has put these on in the past. They've done actually quite a good job at it as well. That little mark there, I think, is what they've actually used to denote where top dead center is and the actual firing point at 25 degrees before. And I've used my flexible ruler to check, and sure enough it is 22.22, so that should be good. So one thing I've just noticed while working on the ignition system is the split link on the chain has been fitted incorrectly. The closed end should always face the direction of travel, which is this direction. So that should be that side. So I will flip that around. Okay, so I've connected the wires up. First thing I noticed was the grommet missing, so I fitted one there because it needs one. And also that this isn't original, this is UK mains cabling, judging by the colours. And so the yellow from the lighting coil goes to the green and yellow, which is close enough. The black wire for the ignition kill switch goes to this blue wire. Fortunately, this blue wire is permanently connected to ground, as tested with my Parkside multimeter. So there's an issue between this aftermarket switch here that goes on the handlebars, the headlamp, and here. Okay, so I've had a look inside, and one thing I've noticed is that the green and yellow goes to these yellow wires, which is the lighting circuit. But when it gets up to the switch, it's connected to that terminal there, which is the one for the button on the top of the switch. That one there, which is usually the horn. So I think I have to do a little bit of rewiring here. Alright, that's the electric sorted. There is still a blown pilot light bulb in there, which I have to get a replacement for. That isn't even wired up, it's just sat in there. This took a little while to figure out. It's different to the one I've got on my green bike. For some reason, off is the center position on this one, and you got like dipped and side lights and dipped and main beam. That's horn, that's kill around that side. This didn't have any of the rubber insulators I've got on the switch on my green bike, but I did add the insulation tape on the underside of there because of the top of the connector for the side light switch. Hits the top of that and it shorts it out. The next job on the NVT Easy Rider was to find out why the choke lever here was not releasing when full throttle was applied. So the reason it wasn't releasing was due to being too much slack in the throttle cable, which you may have seen a recent YouTube short that I've done on the particular problem. Unfortunately, on this particular bike, it wasn't that easy. And this was because the adjuster was already at maximum, and the open end of the cable up at the twist grip was quite badly chewed and frayed, so I was unable to adjust it. Anyway, it was a good job I had to change the cable because it was actually fitted with the wrong one. Because this is what it looked like when I took the throttle slide out of the carburetor. The cable should not stick out the end of the slide like that. It should look like this. As you can see, there's not much difference in the length of the ends of those two throttle cables. The correct one's on the left, the incorrect one's on the right. So that small difference in the end of the two throttle cables makes a heck of a difference, because if you look at that, it can potentially jam that throttle slide in the wide open position, which is not a good situation to be in when the engine's running, because you won't be able to slow it down by releasing the twist grip. Now, trying to find spare parts for a 50-year-old moped is a little bit tricky, but luckily enough, I had a brand new spare throttle cable for a Tomos A35, which just happens to use the same SHA carburetor. I bought this one from YPV Spares. Cut off the barrel nipple on the end of the cable and remove this adjuster because they're not used on the Easy Rider, because it uses a different type of twist grip. Okay, so I didn't film fitting the new throttle cable because it's pretty straightforward, and if you want to know how to adjust it, just watch the YouTube short, but it is indeed now working. So in the next video, we're going to try and start it now that we've got spark and we've got an operating choke mechanism. Thanks for watching.